At Arizona State University, we're bringing world-class education from our globally acclaimed faculty to you. Ranked #1 in innovation for 10 consecutive years and #2 among public universities for employability. ASU isn't just ahead of the curve, it's creating new paths to success. Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online, that's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
Hey everyone, welcome back. We're doing a deep dive today, and you know me, I love to dig into the latest in cybersecurity. And today we've got some really interesting stuff to unpack from a Spanish radio program and podcast called Cyber After Work.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, it is. They're actually getting ready for a big cybersecurity event in Spain called Cyber Icon 2025. And in their latest episode, they kind of do a preview of the big topics and concerns that are going to be discussed there.
Oh, that's cool. A little sneak peek for us.
Exactly. So that's what we're going to be diving into today. And I think it'll give us a good sense of where cybersecurity is headed, what experts are worried about, and how it all impacts, businesses like yours.
I'm all ears. Let's dive in.
Okay, so they start off with a pretty alarming story, this potential data leak that could affect over 160,000 members of the Spanish Guardia Civil. So that's like their national law enforcement agency.
Wow, that's massive.
Yeah, it is. And it also includes, military personnel and folks from the Ministry of Defense.
Really? So we're talking about some pretty sensitive information here.
Oh, absolutely. Highly sensitive stuff. And get this. They think it might have all started from a breach at a company that handles health screenings.
You're kidding. So like a regular healthcare company, not even directly related to the military or government?
Nope. Not at all. Which really kind of drives home the point that, cybersecurity is not just about protecting those top secret government facilities or military bases anymore.
Right. It's like everything is connected these days, and a vulnerability in one seemingly unrelated organization can have huge ripple effects.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's a scary thought, right? Because it means that understanding your partner's security practices is just as important as your own.
Absolutely. You've got to know who you're doing business with and what their security posture is like, because a weak link in the chain can bring the whole thing down.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
And speaking of interconnectedness and regulations, this whole data leak situation kind of leads into the NIS2 directive, which is this new cybersecurity law that the EU is rolling out.
Oh, yeah. I've been hearing about that. What's the latest on that?
Well, a public comment period is actually closing on February 10th, 2025. So if you're in the EU and you want to have your say, now's the time.
Oh, wow. So it's coming down the pike pretty soon.
Well, yeah, they're serious about this thing. But, for those of us who aren't super familiar with the nitty-gritty, what exactly is this NIS2 directive all about?
Well, it's basically about expanding the scope of cybersecurity requirements to more organizations than ever before.
So it's not just about protecting, critical infrastructure and essential services anymore.
Nope. It's going way beyond that. They're realizing that even smaller disruptions can cascade into major problems.
Okay, so give me an example. How could a cyber attack on a small business, let's say, lead to something bigger?
Well, think about it. A local power outage caused by a cyber attack could impact hospitals, schools, even your ability to, work remotely.
Wow. Yeah, you're right. It's like a domino effect.
Exactly. And with NIS2, they're trying to make sure that more organizations are taking cybersecurity seriously and have those measures in place to prevent those dominoes from falling.
Makes sense. So it's like a ripple effect from those big data breaches. Lawmakers are seeing that we need a much wider lens when it comes to cybersecurity.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that interconnectedness and understanding that security is everyone's responsibility.
Absolutely. Okay, so another interesting tidbit from the Cyber After Work program was that the UK is thinking about banning ransomware payments for public entities.
Oh, wow. That's a bold move. But I can see why they'd consider it. Ransomware has been a huge problem.
Yeah, it has. But isn't this kind of controversial? Like, what happens if a hospital or emergency service gets hit and they can't pay the ransom to get their data back?
That's the big question, right? There's a lot of debate about whether it's actually an effective strategy.
I bet. It seems risky.
Yeah, on the one hand, you could argue that refusing to pay might discourage the attackers, dry up their funding.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
But then on the other hand, you've got those critical services that could be crippled if they can't recover their data.
Exactly. It's a tough balancing act. And it's not just about the money either,
What do you mean?
Well, some argue that paying ransoms just encourages more attacks. It's like rewarding bad behavior.
Oh, yeah, like they see it as a profitable business model and they just keep doing it.
Exactly. So the UK is also looking into making it mandatory to report ransomware attacks.
Oh, like similar to what Australia has done.
Yeah, exactly. So instead of just sweeping these attacks under the rug, they'd have to be reported, which could lead to better strategies and defenses.
I like that idea, bringing it out into the open.
Yeah, transparency is key. Having more data about these attacks could help us understand, the patterns, the tactics, the industries that are most targeted.
And that could lead to more effective prevention measures down the line.
Exactly. It's all about learning and adapting.
Absolutely. Okay, so speaking of learning and adapting the cyber afterwork, folks are pretty hyped about this Cyber Icon 2025 event that's being hosted by Deloitte.
Yeah, it sounds like a big deal. Lots of cybersecurity experts, vendors, clients, all coming together to talk about the latest trends and challenges.
Exactly. And they're diving into some really interesting topics, like AI and cybersecurity, the challenges of cloud migration and identity management.
Those are definitely hot topics right now.
Yeah, for sure. And they're also looking at IoT security, digital twins for critical infrastructure. Have you heard about that?
Digital twins. Yeah, it's basically like a virtual copy of a physical system, right?
Exactly. It's like having a digital model of your power grid or your transportation system so you can test and simulate different scenarios.
Oh, that's really cool. So you can see how a cyber attack might play out and develop better defenses.
Exactly. And then, of course, they're also talking about the evolving role of the CISO.
Oh, yeah, the Chief Information Security Officer.
Yeah.
Their job is definitely getting more complex.
For sure. But you know what else caught my eye? They've got this former professional basketball player, Felipe Reyes, as their closing speaker.
A basketball player. That's an interesting choice. What does basketball have to do with cybersecurity?
I know, right? But I think it speaks to this idea that cybersecurity is no longer just a tech issue. It's a business issue. It's a human issue. It affects everyone, even those in seemingly unrelated fields.
I like that. It's about breaking down those silos and having those cross-industry conversations.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, we're all in this together.
Totally agree. Cybersecurity is a team sport.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit more about the CISO. You mentioned that their role is evolving, so what's changing?
Well, it's interesting. They're becoming less about just the technical expertise and more about business strategy.
So it's less about just, plugging holes, more about understanding how security impacts the big picture.
Exactly. CISOs need to be able to talk about cybersecurity in a way that CEOs and boards understand, connect it to those big picture business goals.
So they need to be able to speak the language of the boardroom.
For sure. They need to be able to articulate the business value of security investments, explain how those investments contribute to the bottom line.
Makes sense, because at the end of the day, security is an investment, not just a cost.
Exactly. And CISOs need to be able to make that case effectively.
I imagine budget constraints are a big challenge for them.
Absolutely. They're often asked to do more with less, which can be really tough.
Especially in a climate where, security threats are constantly evolving and the costs of those threats are going up.
Right. It's a constant battle. But you know what else is interesting?
What's that?
Deloitte actually moved cybersecurity into their technology and transformation area.
Oh, wow. So they're really signaling that it's not just a back office function anymore.
Exactly. It's about driving innovation and being proactive, not just reactive.
I like that. So what does this mean for the CISO's responsibilities?
Well, they're definitely expanding. They need to be able to manage business risks, not just technical vulnerabilities, and they need to be able to bridge that knowledge gap between the tech folks and the business folks.
So they're kind of like translators in a way.
In a way, yeah. They need to be able to speak both languages and make sure everyone is on the same page.
And they need to be able to make those tough decisions about where to invest those limited resources.
Absolutely. It's about prioritizing and making strategic choices.
Right. And it's not just about technology either, right?
Yeah.
It's about people and culture.
Oh, for sure. Deloitte talks about these 3 key agendas: business, talent, and culture.
Yeah, I read about that. So it's not just about having the best tech. It's about having the right people and the right mindset.
Exactly. Building a strong cybersecurity culture is essential.
Okay, so the CISO is juggling a lot these days. What are some of the things that keep them up at night? Like, what are the biggest challenges they're facing?
Well, the rapid advancement of AI is definitely a big one.
Oh, yeah, I can imagine. AI can be a powerful tool for cybersecurity, but it can also be a powerful tool for attackers.
Exactly. It's a double-edged sword.
So CISOs need to stay ahead of the curve and figure out how to use AI to their advantage while also defending against those who are using it for malicious purposes.
Exactly. It's a constant game of cat and mouse.
And then, of course, there's the challenge of optimizing those cybersecurity budgets.
Always a tough one, especially with the costs of everything going up.
Yeah, it's a constant balancing act.
Yeah.
Trying to get the most bang for your buck.
Right. And then there's the need to align security strategies with all these rapid technological changes,
Like cloud computing, IoT, all that stuff.
Exactly. Things are moving so fast that it can be hard to keep up.
It's like you finally get a handle on one thing, and then something new pops up.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's the talent gap. Finding and retaining skilled cybersecurity professionals is a huge challenge.
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that. There just aren't enough people to fill all the open roles.
Right. It's a major problem, and it's only going to get worse as the threat landscape continues to evolve.
So what can be done about it?
Well, it's going to require a multi-pronged approach. We need to invest in training and development programs to upskill existing workers, and we need to do a better job of attracting new talent to the field.
So basically, we need to make cybersecurity a more appealing career path.
Exactly. We need to show people that it's not just about sitting in a dark room staring at a computer screen. It's about solving complex problems, making a real difference in the world.
It's about protecting people and organizations from harm.
Exactly. It's a noble profession, and we need more people to join the fight.
I love that. So, okay, we've covered a lot of ground here about the evolving landscape of cybersecurity, but what are the key takeaways for our listeners so far?
Well, I think the main thing is that cybersecurity is no longer just a technical issue. It's a business issue, a strategic issue, an issue that affects everyone.
It's about understanding the interconnectedness of everything and recognizing that security is everyone's responsibility.
Exactly. And it's about being proactive, not just reactive. We need to be thinking ahead, anticipating threats, and putting those measures in place to prevent them.
And we need to be collaborating, sharing information, and working together to make the world a safer place.
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, we're all in this together.
I love that. So stay tuned, folks, because in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to explore some of the key themes of Cyber Icon 2025 in more detail. We'll be talking about AI cloud security, the evolving role of the CISO, and much more. It's going to be fascinating.
Can't wait. One thing that really jumped out at me from that Cyber Afterwork episode was how they talked about Deloitte shifting cybersecurity into their technology and transformation area.
Oh, yeah, that was interesting. It's like they're saying cybersecurity is no longer just a cost center. It's a business enabler.
Exactly. It's about using security to actually, create value for the business, not just protect it.
So how does that translate to the CISO's role? What does that actually look like in practice?
Well, they need to be able to articulate that business value, not just talk about the technical stuff, but connect security to those big picture business goals.
So instead of just saying we need to invest in firewalls, they can say investing in firewalls will reduce our risk of a data breach, which could cost us millions of dollars and damage our reputation.
Exactly. It's about speaking the language of the boardroom and showing how security contributes to the bottom line.
I like that. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about,
Yeah.
right? Protecting the business and helping it succeed.
Exactly. And CISOs who can do that will be in high demand.
For sure. Now, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, cybersecurity culture. They really emphasize that it's not just about having the latest technology. It's about people, too.
Oh, absolutely. You can have the best security tools in the world, but if your employees aren't aware of the risks and practicing good cyber hygiene, you're still vulnerable.
So how do you build that culture? It sounds like a pretty big undertaking.
It starts at the top, Leaders need to set the tone and make it clear that security is everyone's responsibility.
Lead by example kind of thing.
Exactly. If the CEO is walking around with their password written on a sticky note, it's not going to send a good message.
Right. So it's about actions speaking louder than words.
For sure. And it's also about providing regular training, Make it engaging and relevant to people's roles.
So not just a boring annual PowerPoint presentation.
No, definitely not. Mix it up, Do some simulations, maybe have some guest speakers, make it fun and interactive.
Simulations. That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's like a fire drill for cybersecurity.
Yeah.
You don't want to wait for a real incident to find out that your team isn't prepared.
I love that analogy. And you could involve different stakeholders too, right? Not just the IT team.
Exactly. Get legal involved communications, HR, everyone who would play a role in responding to a real incident.
Makes sense. It's a team effort.
Exactly. Okay, so speaking of responding to incidents, they also talked about cyber resilience.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
It is. It's about being able to bounce back quickly when those incidents do occur, Because let's face it, they're probably going to happen at some point.
Right. It's not a matter of if, but when.
Exactly. So you need to have a plan in place. Tests that plan be able to adapt and learn from your mistakes.
So it's not just about preventing attacks, it's about being prepared for when they happen.
Exactly. It's a continuous process of assessment, mitigation, and improvement.
Yeah. Okay. Now I want to dive into something that's been on my mind a lot lately, AI and cybersecurity. They didn't spend a ton of time on it in the Cyber Afterwork episode, but it's such a fascinating and rapidly evolving area.
Oh, it is. It's like a double-edged sword, you know. AI can be a powerful tool for both defenders and attackers.
Right. So on the one hand, we've got AI helping us automate tasks, analyze massive amounts of data, detect threats more effectively.
Exactly. But then on the other hand, you've got attackers using AI to make their attacks even more sophisticated, evade detection, find new vulnerabilities.
It's an arms race.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's moving at an incredible pace.
So CISOs really need to stay ahead of the curve on this one.
Absolutely. They need to understand how AI is changing the game on both sides.
It sounds like investing in AI-powered security tools is crucial.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But it's not enough to just buy the latest shiny tech. You need the expertise to leverage it effectively.
Right. It's not a magic bullet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
AI should be seen as a complement to human expertise, not a replacement.
It's about finding that balance between the power of technology and the insights and experience of skilled security professionals.
Exactly. And speaking of skilled professionals, they also touched on the talent gap in cybersecurity.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
It is. There just aren't enough qualified people to fill all the open roles.
And the demand is only going to increase. Right?
Yeah. Absolutely. As the threat landscape continues to evolve, we're going to need more and more skilled cybersecurity professionals.
So how do we fix this?
Well, it's going to take a lot of effort from a lot of different stakeholders. We need to invest in training and development programs to upskill existing workers. We need to partner with universities and other educational institutions to attract new talent to the field.
And we need to make cybersecurity a more appealing career path, right?
Exactly. We need to show people that it's a challenging and rewarding field with lots of opportunities for growth.
And it's not just about technical skills either, right?
Right. We also need people with strong communication skills, critical thinking skills, problem-solving skills.
It's a multifaceted field.
Yeah, it is. And that's what makes it so interesting.
Okay, so let's talk about something that's probably on every CISO's mind budget constraints. How do they make the case for the resources they need?
It's tough, but it's all about understanding the business and speaking the language of the boardroom.
So instead of talking about vulnerabilities and exploits, maybe talk about the potential financial losses from a data breach or the damage to the brand's reputation.
Exactly. Connect security to those tangible business outcomes. Show them how investing in security can actually save the company money in the long run.
And don't be afraid to use data and metrics to support your case.
Absolutely. Track those key security indicators, show them the numbers, and make a compelling argument.
It's all about making that business case.
It is. Okay, now let's shift gears a bit and talk about risk management.
Okay, sounds good.
Risk is inherent in everything we do, especially in the digital world.
Right. There's no such thing as zero risk.
Exactly. So the key is to understand your risks, prioritize them, and put measures in place to mitigate them.
It's about finding that balance between security and usability, right? You don't want to make things so secure that it hinders productivity or stifles innovation.
Exactly. And it's also important to recognize that you can't eliminate all risks.
So it's about managing risk, not eliminating it.
Precisely. It's about reducing your risk to an acceptable level.
And that acceptable level is going to vary depending on the organization and the industry, right?
Absolutely. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to risk management.
It's about understanding your own unique risks and tailoring your security strategy accordingly.
Exactly. Okay, now let's talk about incident response. Because no matter how strong your security posture is, there's always the possibility of an incident.
Right. It's almost inevitable in today's world.
It is.
Yeah.
So being prepared is crucial. You need a plan in place to respond quickly and effectively when something does happen.
So what does a good incident response plan look like?
Well, first and foremost, you need to be able to quickly identify and contain the incident. Figure out what's going on and stop it from spreading.
Okay, that makes sense. Then what?
Then you need to focus on eradicating the threat. Get rid of the malware, clean up the infected systems, that kind of thing.
Okay, and once the threat is gone?
Then you can move on to recovering any affected systems and data.
So it's like a step-by-step process.
It has to be. The goal is to minimize the impact of the incident and get things back to normal as quickly and efficiently as possible.
And don't forget the importance of learning from the incident.
Oh, absolutely. Every incident is an opportunity to improve your security posture and make sure it doesn't happen again.
So it's like a continuous loop: prevent, detect, respond, recover, and learn.
Exactly. It's a cycle of continuous improvement.
Now, I want to get a little more specific. What are some of the most common types of security incidents organizations are facing these days?
Well, ransomware attacks are still a major threat.
Ransomware. Yeah, it's a scary one.
It is. It's incredibly disruptive and can cost organizations a lot of money.
Remind me again, how does ransomware work?
Well, it's a type of malware that encrypts files on a victim's computer, essentially holding their data hostage.
So they can't access their own files.
Right. And then the attackers demand a ransom payment in exchange for the decryption key.
It's like a digital kidnapping.
In a way, yes. And unfortunately, these attacks are becoming more sophisticated and more frequent.
So what can organizations do to protect themselves?
Well, keeping your software up to date is crucial. Many attacks exploit known vulnerabilities that have already been patched.
So those software updates are really important.
They are, and using strong passwords and multi-factor authentication is another important step.
Right, because weak passwords are like an open invitation to attackers.
Exactly. And then, of course, there's phishing.
Oh, yeah, those emails that try to trick you into clicking on malicious links or downloading infected attachments.
Exactly. Those are still a major problem.
So how do you spot a phishing email?
Well, be skeptical of any unsolicited emails that ask for personal information or urge you to click on links.
So don't just click on everything that comes into your inbox.
Yeah. Right. Look closely at the sender's address, hover over links to see where they actually lead before clicking.
Good advice.
Cool.
Okay, so we've got ransomware, phishing, and then, of course, there's malware.
Ah, yes, malware, the catch-all term for any kind of software designed to harm or disable your computer or steal your information.
That's like the digital boogeyman.
Pretty much. And it can come in many different forms: viruses, worms, spyware, Trojans, you name it.
So how do you protect yourself from all these digital bad guys?
Well, having a good antivirus program installed on your computer is a good start.
Okay, what else?
Be careful about the websites you visit and the software you download. And always keep your software up to date.
There's that software update advice again.
It's important.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's talk about some of the emerging trends in cybersecurity.
Sounds good. What's on the horizon?
Well, the increasing use of cloud computing is definitely changing the game.
Cloud computing, yeah, it's so convenient, but it also introduces new security challenges.
Right. You're essentially entrusting your data to a third-party provider, so you need to make sure they have strong security practices in place.
So it's not just about protecting your own systems anymore. It's about making sure your cloud provider is also doing their part.
Exactly. You need to carefully vet your providers, understand their security policies, and make sure your data is protected.
Makes sense. And then there's the Internet of Things, or IoT.
Oh, yeah, the IoT. That's a big one.
It's like every day there's a new device connected to the Internet.
I know. It's amazing and a little bit scary at the same time.
It is, because all those devices are potential entry points for attackers.
Exactly. And they're often not as secure as traditional computers.
So it's not just your laptop or smartphone that you need to worry about anymore. It's your smart refrigerator, your smart thermostat, your smart doorbell.
It's everything. And those devices are often collecting sensitive data about your habits in your home.
It's a little creepy when you think about it.
Yeah.
So how do we secure all these devices?
Well, it starts with awareness. Be mindful of the devices you're bringing into your home and the data they're collecting.
Okay, so do your research before you buy.
Exactly. And change the default passwords on your devices. And keep your software updated. That goes for your IoT devices too.
So a lot of the same best practices we've been talking about just applied to a wider range of devices.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that the threat landscape is constantly evolving.
Attackers are always coming up with new ways to exploit vulnerabilities.
They are. It's a never-ending game of cat and mouse.
So it's important to stay informed, stay vigilant, and keep learning.
Absolutely. Cybersecurity is a journey, not a destination.
Well said. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about building a strong cybersecurity culture, the importance of AI, the challenges of the talent gap and budget constraints, managing risk, and some of the most common threats and emerging trends.
A lot to take in.
It is.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to have these conversations and to keep raising awareness about cybersecurity.
I agree. Because at the end of the day, it's about protecting people and organizations from harm.
Exactly. And that's something we should all care about. So, we've talked a lot about the, technical side of cybersecurity, but I think there's this other layer that's really important too, and that's trust.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Trust is huge in cybersecurity these days.
Yeah, and they talked about this a little bit on Cyber After Work too, like how crucial it is for businesses to build and maintain that trust with their customers, especially with all these data breaches and cyber attacks happening all the time.
Right. It's not enough to just have a secure system anymore.
Yeah.
Customers want to know that you're actually taking their data privacy seriously.
They want to feel confident that their information is safe in your hands.
Exactly. And that's where the CISO's role becomes even more important, I think.
Oh, how so?
Well, they're not just a technical leader anymore. They're kind of like a champion for trust building within the organization.
So it's about more than just firewalls and intrusion detection systems.
Right. It's about communicating with customers, being upfront about your security practices, and really showing them that you care about protecting their data.
It's about transparency and accountability.
Exactly. Customers can tell when a company is just paying lip service to security. They want to see action. They want to understand what you're doing to keep their information safe.
And it's not just about external trust with customers either, right? It's also about building a culture of trust within the organization itself.
Oh, absolutely. If employees don't trust the leadership to make security a priority, they're less likely to follow best practices themselves.
It all goes back to that cybersecurity culture we were talking about.
Exactly. So yeah, trust is a really important piece of the puzzle.
So how can companies actually leverage cybersecurity to build that trust, both internally and externally? What are some concrete steps they can take?
Well, like I said, transparency is key. Be open and honest with your customers about your security practices. Let them know what you're doing to protect their data, how you're collecting it, how you're using it, how you're storing it.
And be upfront about security incidents when they happen.
Yes, even though it can be tempting to want to sweep those things under the rug.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's ultimately counterproductive,
Yeah.
Trying to hide a breach only erodes trust when it inevitably comes to light.
Right. It's better to just be upfront about it.
Exactly. Explain what happened, what you're doing to fix it, and what you're doing to prevent it from happening again.
Take ownership, show that you're learning from your mistakes.
Exactly. And beyond transparency, it's about actually investing in those security measures that demonstrate your commitment,
Like what kind of things?
Strong encryption, multi-factor authentication, regular security audits, things that show customers that you're not just talking the talk, you're walking the walk.
Actions speak louder than words.
Right. And it goes back to what we were saying about the CISO. They need to be able to articulate the business value of these investments.
Show how cybersecurity is directly contributing to building trust, which then leads to all those good things like customer loyalty and a stronger brand reputation.
Exactly. It's an investment in the future of the company.
And let's not forget about employee training.
Oh, yeah, that's huge. Your employees are on the front lines of cybersecurity. They're the ones interacting with customers, handling sensitive data, potentially clicking on those phishing emails.
So investing in their training is an investment in trust as well.
Absolutely. Well-trained employees are more likely to spot those threats, follow security protocols, understand the importance of protecting customer data.
They become ambassadors for your security culture.
Exactly. And that sense of shared responsibility is really powerful.
It is. So as we wrap up this deep dive into cybersecurity in 2025, it seems like trust is the thread that ties everything together.
It really is.
Yeah.
In a world where everything is so interconnected, trust is more valuable than ever.
It's about protecting data relationships, reputations, and ultimately the future of businesses in this digital world.
Well said.
And for our listeners out there, I hope this deep dive has given you a new perspective on cybersecurity, one that goes beyond the technical details and really highlights the human element.
Yeah, it's about people, processes, and culture. It's about awareness, vigilance, and continuous improvement.
It's a journey, not a destination.
That's right.
So keep learning, stay curious, and remember, cybersecurity is everyone's responsibility.
Right.
Until next time, stay safe out there.
And stay informed.